Hello there and welcome to this vlog of August 2024. Just a short one today really. I just want to go through some of the key points in the communications that CGL put out a few days ago as pertains to the Kickstarter and the delays around the Kickstarter. It turns out what I discussed last week was actually true, so they do have some fulfillment issues, but I feel in a much better place now because the comms were pretty like matter of fact, and I got the impression that there's nothing to really worry about. That was first impression anyway, like reading between the lines a little bit. But I will, in a second, I'll just go and read some of that out and then give my thoughts on it, and then, give some kind of commentary on where I think we currently are. But not being able to respond to this as quickly as I wanted because I've been out on holiday for the last week. Came back yesterday and had like the best hobby day I've had all year. Just like everything fell into line. So some of this relates to today's video, by the way. But first thing, got back, checked my like little post box thing that I've got in my front garden, and I've got the new Hero Quest expansion, which is called Jungles of Delthrak. I love my Hero Quest. It's one of the kind of games that I used to play all the time when I was a kid, and Hasbro have released that, so really nice to see that in the post, and that's something nice to paint as well over the next few weeks. I also came back to another package, and I'd ordered a lot of metal miniatures from Ralpartha, so that I could basically complete the Wilson Cesars, two companies of, and so that then I can record the video that I've been planning for a while on kind of showcasing that paint job and discussing all things Wilson Cesars. So that came. I then really kind of got a motor on, got everything built, primed and painted. I got basically 12, a company basically, painted up across the day. So that was awesome. I am pretty quick at painting. So, and I'm not great. I've said this many times on the channel. I'm very much like a tabletop painter, but I do okay. I think for my very average support talent levels, I actually do a pretty decent job, I think. So I've now got everything ready from the Wilson Cesars. All the decals are on there. So I'll probably try to record that today or tomorrow, and I might release that. Well, I don't know. I'll see how I feel. I might release that this evening or next week. Who knows? So, anyway, third point then, and this was something that I'd learnt from the one of the Blood Bowl podcasts, Bonehead podcast, I think they call it. This was like a bone of contention for me for years. That Games Workshop released Blood Bowl, the second season, and it's amazing, right? Like, I absolutely adore that game. I think it's like the best game I've ever bought and engaged with. Like the rules, the artwork, the miniatures, it's just phenomenal. I'm a big Blood Bowl player going back into the 90s, but this second season is just like absolutely incredible. But I just had this major issue with them that they'd not released Chaos Dwarfs. I think I've actually spoken about it on this channel before. Like, I got very angsty a few months ago when they released Gnomes, but not Chaos Dwarfs. So they were kind of adding to the IP because Gnomes are not a thing in Blood Bowl. Well, they certainly weren't in the 90s. And I don't mind them doing new things. Like, don't get me wrong, it's very good that they keep innovating these teams. But to do Gnomes and not Chaos Dwarfs really grated on me because Chaos Dwarfs are like my team. That's the team that I always used to love playing when I was a kid. They're kind of an iconic team. They've got those big silly hats. They're a real kind of comedy outfit. So, I really, really wanted them. And yesterday, Games Workshop finally admitted that finally announced that they were doing the Chaos Dwarfs. So that was my third bit of amazing hobby news throughout the day. And then it was topped off, finally, late last night. I got a address confirmation for one of the American BattleTech Kickstarter orders that I'd bought for somebody. And that gives me great hope because let's just say, as my ex-girlfriend from Michigan used to say, I'm from the bit of the strip of land between LA and New York, the bit that we like to call the United States of America. And that's exactly where this order is going. So it's going somewhere not in one of their probably key areas. So it may have been like far down their distribution list. So when that came through, I was like, oh, they really must have like broken the back then of the Kickstarter now in the US, which is great. I would openly say as well, I think I said this in the last video, I really am keen for them to do the American stuff first, because America is like the beating heart of BattleTech, and like we get advantages being in Britain with Games Workshop products, Americans get advantages with Catalyst being an American company and BattleTech being very much an American IP. Just unfortunate for the Australians, they get screwed over both ways. If you're a BattleTech player and into Games Workshop products, then sorry Australia. But you know how to get around that. Create your own amazing gaming IP and then absolutely fleece the hell out of the Europeans and the Americans. That's how to do it. How could we argue against that after everything we've put you through with like shipping costs and basically charging you through the nose? And you've obviously got the Australian dollar, which is always like traditionally quite weak against like, sterling and the American dollar. So, yeah, great day yesterday, and that final bit, the bit on the shipping, kind of brings me to today's video. So, I'm just going to read out a couple of the paragraphs here. So we'll just do fulfillment first. So during fulfillment, QML and its hubs, through no fault of their own. That's good. I like that they've done that. I don't like it when like companies bury their partners. So it's nice that they've said that. Identified incorrect stock levels for items that had originally shipped from the manufacturers. So the emphasis there, and this is kind of what I said last week. I didn't say, I think it's a problem with the factories, but I think, you kind of have to assume it is. If the factories have sent the wrong products out to the logistics centres, then the fault kind of lies with the factories, right? Again, and I say fault, like this isn't a major trauma or anything. It's probably just that like certain shipments got redirected to the wrong place, which, you're dealing with a massive logistics program here. So the things are going to go wrong. There you go. Anyway, Catalyst is working with QML to shift stock between warehouses and hubs. Other than the stock shifts, the EU, UK and Australian hubs are still short a few items that were either in the US or were first shipped to the US before being parcelled out to the needed hubs. The remaining short-stocked items are Catalyst focus for the week, and we expect to have those stock levels fixed quickly, including the House Arano Challenge coin. These items are being sorted now into the needed shipments, and we hope to begin international fulfillment in the near future. As these are planned to be resolved quickly, QML is going to wait for these items before shipping. So, I'd actually learned from doing the video last week. Somebody made the comment about the House Arano Challenge coins. I believe that was picked up somewhere on one of the streams that CGL did. So they've probably discussed this before, and obviously it's difficult for them to fulfill, to kind of really kind of do the fulfillments if lots of people are getting these House Arano Challenge coins, which I would imagine people are, because House Arano is the force from BattleTech 2018, and they're quite popular, so I bet quite a few people have those. I don't think I do. I can't remember getting one anyway, but if you do, and there is a delay on it, it possibly is because of that. They've not mentioned any other stock points there, so they've not said, we don't have enough of this vehicle pack to fulfill, so that's a good sign. I think given they've said something specific there, it sounds maybe like it's just like the add-on items as opposed to anything in like the core packs. The other thing there, I suppose, that needs addressing that's relatively ambiguous, but I actually support them saying this, and I'll read this out again. These items are now being sorted into the needed shipments, and we hope to begin international fulfillment in the near future. Near future being obviously very ambiguous. Near future could mean February next year, right? We don't know. However, if they are not sure, I would always opt on just keeping it vague. It's, again, if you go through the comments, you'll see people complaining about that and saying, we want an actual date. But if they can't give it, they can't give it. They may as well. They've told us about the Irano Challenge coin. Maybe there are other things there that are more intrinsic to holding things up that they've just decided not to put out in case they cause a bit of a panic. Obviously, though, if where this is positive is if it's just like a redistribution of stock from hub to hub, that's actually quite easy to do, right? Like if there are, say, like a couple of pallets of produce that are in Missouri as opposed to Florida, then you should be able to quite easily like rectify that. I would imagine then that if whoever has kind of dropped the ball on that will probably have to kind of, this is what I'd do. CGL should then be looking at like insurance claims against the company that have dropped the ball. I would therefore say that, you've got to kind of take a lot of heat away from Catalyst from this. They are just a leaf on the wind with these third parties. Really can't do anything about it. So be generous, please. I've gone through the comments and there are some, rockets on there talking nonsense, or like just over entitled, just like bad behaviour type stuff, like giving a treatise on why they are an evil company or something. They're doing their best. It's clear that they're doing their best. It's clear that there's been a hiccup, which there always was going to be. I mean, I am not a big Kickstarter backer. I think in my life I've probably backed about 5 Kickstarter projects. One is still on the boil as well. That's the Conan Monolith Kickstarter. So we say 3 that I've done, one of which was the BattleTech Clan Invasion Kickstarter. Every single one of them has had problems. I went in at the same time I went for the Clan Invasion Kickstarter. I got this really amazing pack of tarot cards on Kickstarter, and it was like the H.P. Lovecraft Cthulhu tarot card collection. And I actually have a bit of a hobby collecting like tarot card sets. Don't get me wrong, I'm not some kind of like Mystic Meg tarot card reader, but I just love tarot cards. Like they just, I love the artwork on them, and it's nice to get different sets. And I'm a big like Lovecraft fanboy, so that I saw that kind of crop up and was like, got to get that. That was a pack of cards made in France by a pretty decent sized company. There was like a 3-month delay on it, right? Like you very, very rarely, I think, get a smooth experience with Kickstarters. There are always going to be some delays down the chain. I think it is a reason why Kickstarters have really like gone off the boil over the last few years. Like there was a time where everything was Kickstarter. Everyone was hot for Kickstarters. Everyone was really kind of into it and loving it. And then I think it's like lost a lot of its like appeal because there are so many problems with it. I think Catalyst as well, if they do another Kickstarter, and I really, really genuinely think we'll never get a Kickstarter on this level again. I think the Clan Invasion and this one are like the 2 biggies, and the others that they do in the future will be much like more contained and smaller. For many reasons, partly because of the logistics issues that they've just seen. Even when they've kind of got all the plastics made well in advance, there's still delays. And I think do all the marketing benefits that you get from doing a Kickstarter add up to the problems? And my argument to that would be no. Now, I don't know the finances of it, and obviously the money that you get from a Kickstarter is basically an interest-free loan, so that's incredibly nice to get as a company. But I just think now, like you're really kind of playing with fire when it comes to doing these big projects and the potential like catastrophic damage that it can do if it goes wrong. I mean, make no bones about it. If this failed, if the Kickstarter just fell over, it would destroy the IP, right? Like, I'm not even exaggerating. It would absolutely cause the end of BattleTech, right? Or maybe not BattleTech. It'd certainly be the end of like Catalyst's tenure with the IP. But in terms of like the wider damage that it would do across the community, it would be horrific. And I just think like if you roll the dice and you get those snake eyes just for the extra marketing bounce that you get, or the interest-free loan, I'd much rather just have a very, very comprehensive, tight retail strategy, which is far more predictable, far less can go wrong. And you can keep re-staggering things, right? And you get that like constant buzz of like the Games Workshop model, where like every month they're like releasing new products, new experiences, new things. When you do a Kickstarter, and you'll see this you can clearly see this from Catalyst. Like they had like last March, April, May, it went like nuts on the comms side, and then it's just fallen off a cliff. Like they've done a couple of like limited releases. Like we got the Star League box sets. You know, they've announced a few things for the mercenaries. We obviously have the big blueprint document that's still not confirmed, but we can kind of see what direction they're going in over the next 3 years. But I just feel like it's such a grating experience for everyone concerned, fans, the company doing it, with all the logistic problems you get. If I ever do go in for a Kickstarter again, I think it will be like let's say they released a Kickstarter on this size again next year. And, this is partly to do with my subjective experience because, I've really kind of come into the end of collecting all the forces that I want here. So that's a thing. But I just don't think I will ever get anything beyond like a core box set and a couple of boxes because it just feels so brutal, right? And I know it sounds weird that because it should be a thing of joy, but just having to kind of look out for, comms all the time. And obviously I do the content creation anyway, so I've kind of got that aspect to it that a lot of people don't, so I keep an eye out with these things and then do like videos on it or whatever. But I just do think to myself like, I can live without the 18 months that this kind of takes from your life. I'd much rather just pay over the odds and get it at retail. So just some thoughts there, wider thoughts on Kickstarter in general. In terms of anything else here, it does. So this is actually out of date news now because I am now recording this after this time period that he talks about here. But it does say QML will be sending out the next batch of address verifications on Thursday. So that was earlier this week to run over the holiday weekend. If you have received your address verification email and have still not received your pledge, please do not worry, as these are sent out in advance to give backers ample time to reroute their order if necessary. So if you haven't checked your main email account that the Kickstarter is backed up, do so because you may have some good news in there if you've not. That's certainly what I got with the US order last night. So that's good. That works. Anything else here? I don't think so. There's something on like the retail stuff for Europeans. So it does say that some of the retailers have got the notifications about shipments, which I presume means it's before the like individuals, and that's obviously that would cause a lot of angst. Like if it started to appear in stores before people who backed the Kickstarter got it, people would go slightly nuts. So I think they're going to have to maybe manage that. But you see, for me, I know a lot of people don't feel this way. I don't care. I mean, if it started to appear in stores, I'm not going to buy it because I've got it coming at some point. I know a lot of people see that as a big like plus for getting the Kickstarter, and yes, it is. But honestly, like I really don't care that much. Again, just for the sake of their optics though, and how people feel about it, it's absolutely good that they are like curtailing that because it would be a major PR issue if that happened. And I think that's it. The rest is on just like store credit, and I suppose there's one little thing on the Art of War BattleTech cookbook, but we already knew this. I'll just read this out. It's very short. These items for any backer who may not have received them are being shipped separately from the rest of the orders and will be on their way following full orders. We are prioritising full orders in this case to expedite the shipping process. Go back to that Kickstarter point that I was talking about earlier, just like the general Kickstarter point. I think this is another great example of where Kickstarters are no longer doing what they want to do, because these are kind of add-ons for the IP to make people want to get the product. For me, when you see everything that's causing the issues, and it happened on the last Kickstarter with the t-shirts, it's the books, it's the the challenge coins or the patches or whatever else. And I think if I was going to do another Kickstarter and I was Catalyst, I would drop every single thing out of the Kickstarter other than the core game and the plastics. It's not necessary. People will back it regardless. What I'd do instead, if I were them, I'd kind of tie it into some kind of like BD marketing project. So I'd say like, look, if you sign up for the Kickstarter, rather than us sending you like challenge coins and stuff like that, you get a $50 store credit. And when you cash that store credit in, we'll send you 5 free patches or coins or whatever that you can choose. and just create something that's outside of the Kickstarter but is a bonus for engaging with a Kickstarter. They can, all the money that they spend on getting these things done for marketing purposes to try and draw people in. This is a tabletop game, and all that the vast majority of people want in this is the plastic. I bet if you did some like Intel Q&As on this and went out to the backers and said, what made you buy or what did you really want from the Kickstarter, 90% would talk about the plastics. You might get the odd person who say, oh yeah, I really, really love the challenge coins because I collect them or whatever. Fine, but just have it outside of the Kickstarter, because it's just caused nothing but trouble and turmoil. And it is, when you see these things going out, you'll find so many of these things on eBay over the next few months. I do like them. Like I use the not yet. I'm going to do it when I've got everything. But I've got patches and coins from the previous Kickstarter, and I'm going to do a little bit of a montage type thing, like I've got with the pictures on some of the collection at the back. I'll do that with the challenge coins and with the patches. So I do have a plan for it. I will be using them at some level, but if I didn't get them, I just wouldn't care. But I want the plastics, right? Because I play tabletop. So that's it. I think, all in all, good comms. Like they've said what they needed to say. I feel a lot more comfortable with it now. I think that, again, we have to go back to that near future. I think the US orders will start to get completely done over the next 4 weeks. I then think we'll start to see international movement probably towards the back end of September. And then I would expect orders to start popping up in and around October, November time. I think they will be desperate to get all this done before the Christmas holidays. That would be pretty catastrophic. Like if you're trying to run these projects when you've got the full nightmare that is like Christmas and all the delivery issues with Christmas and the postal service grinding to a halt and everything else. It's kind of like our version of Chinese New Year, right? Like you don't want to do your big plastic projects when during Chinese New Year, because it just grinds things to a halt for a couple of weeks. So yeah, all in all, that's positive. I think we should all be feel a bit energized by that. I certainly feel energized about it after my great hobby day yesterday. And the next video that I do will be the Wilson Cesars. Again, don't know when I'm going to record or do that. There's kind of a few variables I've got to factor in today in terms of timing, but it will go out over the next several days. That's going to be a bit of a new embarking for me for this new project, which is kind of sitting outside of doing these vlogs. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes down. What I've done on that is what I don't, as a very small content creator, what I never want to do is just rehash other people's content. And it does make me slightly narky when I hear about when I see small content creators just copying big content creators. I never ever want to do that. I've got my own little set criteria that I like to do and enjoy doing. And the series of videos that I'm going to do showing the kind of tabletop forces is my version of the BattleTech analysis video, right? So, Tech started it, right? Tech started it with the great videos that he did all those years ago when he started with the awesome video, and it's kind of just developed in from there. And then people have put their spin on that. So, DFA do the BattleTech videos, which are basically just the same kind of video. It's like an analysis of a mech. It's just taken from an analytics perspective as opposed to a lore perspective. This is my kind of variant for that. So I think that will be the staple of the channel. Me kind of doing pretty long form videos showing paint jobs, in terms of how your forces can look, how somebody with zero talent for painting can actually get a pretty decent looking force on the table. How I kind of intermix in metal models and plastic models and proxies and things like that, and then I can discuss some of the lore as we go on there. So that's kind of I think that will become the core foundation of what I'm going to do here for the duration, especially when the new Kickstarter comes and I'm going to start completing a lot of those forces. At some juncture as well, I'm going to do a huge video on the Dust Counters force, because I do think that is something that deserves its own video. I don't know. Again, I don't know if anyone is interested, but I'd certainly be interested to do it, where I can show the full reinforced regiment. So that's basically 5 battalions of forces. That's quite a special force, right? Like, I think in the kind of annals of people who collect BattleTech and have painted BattleTech, I would be very surprised if many people have done regiment level forces. Obviously, they exist, they're out there, but I think it's, I've never really seen someone do YouTube videos on that. Like, this is just a huge force of like 200 plus units, all painted in the same scheme, and each kind of little lance has a story to tell. That's how I've like done or created the Dust Counters. So I'm really keen to do that, but that will be very much a next year project when I've got the full Dust Counters collection here, because I'm still waiting on the Kickstarter to kind of fulfill that and to basically get the full reinforced regiment, which now like amazes me. I remember the first videos that I did on this like a few years ago, and just showing like, oh, this is my plan, and I was kind of happy just doing like 3 companies, I think, of the Dust Counters, and suddenly it's just morphed into this reinforced regiment, which is honoured like hundreds and hundreds of like vehicles and mechs. Anyway, I'll leave it there because I've kind of covered what I wanted to do here on the Kickstarter stuff. So I hope you found that useful. I'll keep posting any updates that come in on the Kickstarter, but I think now we'll probably see things go a little bit lo-fi for a few weeks, because I feel like the comms that they've put out there is adequate for the moment. No doubt you are going to get people shouting for more data, but I feel like, as someone who knows a bit about comms, that's a positive message. There's nothing in that where I'm like, oh, this is problematic. So yeah, good signs, I think. Anyway, I will leave it here. I will thank you very much for watching, and I'll hopefully catch you again next time.